A sympathy card can sometimes be a challenge because while you want to send a heartfelt message in a difficult time, the card itself should have an understated elegance. Today on Stamp TV, I'm going to show you a beautiful sympathy card sketch featuring the Petals and Wings stamp set along with the new lacy border set. Let me show you the tools and products you need to do this project. First, you're going to need some cardstock. And I'm using some of the Gina Designs Pure Luxury Black Onyx cardstock and some of our layering weight white cardstock. Then you're going to need some stamps, and I am using the large scalloped lace border from the Lacy Border stamp set. And I'm using the small poppy image from the Petals and Wings kit and the With Sympathy stamp from that same Petals and Wings stamp set. Then I'm going to use some black ink, and I've chosen to use the Memento Tuxedo Black. I'm also going to use some Versamark ink, and along with that, some of the fine detail white powder, embossing powder, and the anti-static pad to remove static from the surface of the card or any oil that might get on the card so that the embossing powder only sticks to the Versamark. I have some mono adhesive. And then I'm using one of the lacy ovals by Spellbinders. This is the large die that comes in that set. And I'm using a Swiss Dot Cuttlebug folder. And then I have some 1/4 inch pop dots. So to begin, I'm going to start with the focal image. And I'm going to start by stamping the poppies first. And then once I stamp the poppies, then I'm going to line them up inside that lacy oval to make sure that I have a nice spacing between the poppies and the greeting that I'm going to use for this card. So there's the poppies. And now I'm just going to take a look at this. And this way I'm going to know about where to stamp my greeting, right about there. And I'm going to ink that up with the same black and stamp that with Sympathy right below. Okay. Now next, I'm going to cut this out using the Spellbinders Lacy Ovals dies. And I'm going to use my Cuttlebug for this. And I'm going to start with an A and a B plate. Here's my A plate. And here is my B plate. Then I'm going to line that up. There we go. And if you ever stamp your greeting a little bit crooked, don't worry about that. Just line it up properly once you lay the die down, and you won't even notice that once it's cut, because you may have noticed that I stamped it just a little bit crooked. Okay, and next I'm going to use my C plate to cut this. I moved it a little bit, so I'm just going to move it over. There we go. And the C plate on top. Okay. Now sometimes with these more delicate dies, you should just turn it over and check it out and make sure it cut all the way through. And this one did, but if it didn't, you can flip it over, lay the seat plate back down, and cut it again, and it will cut any little parts that didn't get cut out the first time. So let me remove the excess here. Now I'm going to emboss it by keeping it upside down and laying the Spellbinders rubber mat on top. Then I'm going to use another B plate and a piece of chipboard. And that will emboss that center for me. There we go. So my next step is to add a little bit of shading around there, because I'm not going to add another layer around the outside of this oval. So what I want to do is I want to grab one of these jumbo sponge daubers, and this one I'm going to use with that tuxedo black ink. Now when you're sponging black ink, you really do want to do a little bit at a time. Less is more. So I always just dab a little bit off first, and then I start working outside of the area that I want to shade and then just work the sponge in a little bit. If I start right inside on the cardstock, I'm going to get a dot that looks something like that, and I don't want that, so I'll show you what I mean. So I'm starting outside and working in a circular motion, and now I'm bringing that color in along the perimeter. And you can see, again, less is more. You don't want to go real heavy with black. And I'm continuing to go around this perimeter. And now I can look at it and see if there's any areas that I want to add a little bit more. And I do. I want to come a little bit darker on the sides here. So I'm just going to add a little bit more all around. And now when I take that out, going to see that it looks now like I don't need a layer around the outside because it separates the two areas. You actually have the focal image inside and then you have this white border around the outside. My next step is to create the lacy border down at the bottom of this piece of cardstock. And because our stamps are cut so nice and close, you'll be able to see how to center this so that you have 3 loops going across just by looking at the back of the stamp. Okay, so I'm going to run my anti-static pad over this piece of black cardstock. And then I'm going to ink up this lace border with some Versamark ink. Now you do want to make sure you get the stamp nice and inky. This is a very delicate stamp, but there are some parts that are a little bit bolder, and if you don't have enough ink, you will see shallow spots when you add the embossing powder. And now I'm going to line this up with just a little bit of margin down there at the bottom, as you can see, and I want to make sure that it's nice and straight and even on both sides, and then I'm going to press down. Now, I don't want to rock this stamp back and forth, but I do want to make sure that I put a decent amount of pressure on every single part that's touching the cardstock. Because, like I said, it's a very delicate design, and if there's any little parts missing, you're definitely going to notice it, because you need all that little detail. Okay. And of course, it's always easier to stamp standing up. Okay. So now I have my border there, and I'm going to grab a piece of scratch paper, and I'm going to add my embossing powder to this so that you can see where I stamped. Let me blow away that excess. Now, I want to show you up close here. You'll see that I have a little speck there that I don't like. And if you have a craft pick or something like that, you can just take the craft pick and just pick it out of the way, or your fingernail. And any little bits of white that are anywhere on there that are still actually sticking, make sure you blow those away, because it will emboss and then you won't be able to get them off. Okay. So now I'm going to emboss this using the heat tool, and you'll be able to see how pretty all this detail comes up as that soft white powder gets to be nice and bright. And just like any fine detail powder, you want to make sure that you emboss it just until it gets shiny, and not over emboss it, or you could burn the powder. So there is that detail. Isn't that beautiful? Doesn't that look like real lace? It's amazing. Now that I have this area embossed, I'm going to show you how to use a Cuttlebug folder just right up to the line to create a little bit of texture on the top. So let me grab my Cuttlebug here, and I'm going to start with an A plate. and a B plate. And then what you want to do is you want to line this up so that the dots just go up to the line of the lace right there. And just take a look at everything else and make sure it looks pretty even. And then you can lay that down and you can put your B plate on top and feed that through. There you go. Now what I've done here is I've created that Swiss dot texture just on the top, and I've left this area plain. And that goes right up against the line on that lace. Isn't that fun? And you can really see it even better. Well, you can see it in real life just fine on the black cardstock, but you can really see it on camera better if it's a lighter cardstock. So I hope you can see a little bit of that. Well, now I'm going to layer this piece on top of a white piece. Let me line this up here. There we go. And then this whole panel is going to get popped right onto a black card base. And what's so nice about this is this particular image looks so much like real lace, but you can send this card, it's nice and flat, you don't have to worry about extra postage, and you don't have to worry about any bulk. And lace is kind of expensive, and having a stamp that does the same thing that you can use over and over and over again and mass produce cards, you're going to love to have this one in your collection. Okay, so there we go. Now we have a nice card base there. Now I'm going to take that focal image and I'm going to lay that right on top here, but I'm going to put it on with some 1/4 inch pop dots. Now if you want a little more height, you can use 1/2 inch pop dots, or if you don't want any height, it's fine to just tape it right down onto the project itself. But I want this to stand out and stand up just a little bit from the rest of the project. So let me just remove these little things and we'll put this right onto the front of the card. There we go, just kind of center it on that loop. And there we have a beautiful, elegant Sympathy card. Try this same card using gold embossing powder and gold accents for the perfect 50th anniversary card. Or try soft pastels and turn this card into a baby card. Combine the lacy border stamp set with any soft focal image, and you'll have a beautiful card that you're proud to send.